My younger sister reads a book a week. That is 52 books in a year.
52 books in a year.
And a typical CEO reads 52 books in a year.
Welcome to Save by Nobel, the Learning and Growth Podcast. I promise, Vicky, this time around, I am going to be a more informed student. I'm very excited about today's show because it's something that I have struggled with. Yes, so take it away, Vicky.
Yes. So thanks. And to my audience, of course, I'm Vicky Ngetich, co-host to Denis. So today we'll talk about cultivating the reading culture.
It's all about reading. You know what they say about if you want to hide something in Africa,
put it in books.
Put it in books.
Great. So Denis, you know already that I'm a bookworm. I try to read a book a month.
I know you're part of a book club.
I'm a member of a book club.
And because you are that member of that book club, you know that you have to finish the book. So that's you know, so Denis is always about creating accountability structures, hacking oneself.
Yes.
So you read a book a month. Yes, Vicky, I'm very...
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Denis. Thank you, Denis. But I'm not on the level of my sister yet. My younger sister reads a book a week. That is 52 books in a year.
52 books in a year.
And a typical CEO reads 52 books in a year.
A typical CEO.
Yes.
Moving on swiftly.
Yes.
Room for growth. Room for growth. Yes. Okay.
Yes. So this forms the basis of our discussion today, cultivating the reading culture. And even before we talk about reading books and how to cultivate the reading culture, Denis, according to research studies that have been done, most countries in the African continent, and I refer to African continent because that's where we are, and I know that's where most of our audience are. So according to that research studies that was done, most countries in the African continent and also in the entire world have been very particular on the development of a reading culture among its citizens.
Yeah, I agree.
Therefore, the effort of developing a reading culture cannot be ignored.
Very true.
Yes.
I think when I was in high school, that's when we were really forced to read a lot of books. At that time, I might have thought it was a punishment. Now I'm getting that it was very deliberate.
And that's correct, Denis, because for me, I would tell you the entire high school, I only read, I think it was only 2 books or 3 books. We used to read 2 for Kiswahili and 2 for English. Yeah, I think two novels per language.
So I have quite the opposite experience. When I was in high school, and that's why I'm in so much awe, and I'm very, very keen about today's topic. In high school, we had 4 books. How much older am I?
No, you mean 4 books per language?
4 books per language, yes.
But you used to narrow down to 2, isn't it? I think they were 4 and then you choose 2. I don't know. But you're right. There were 4.
So we read a couple of books.
Yes.
And then I was also a prefect, a library prefect.
Okay.
And to keep myself from sleeping, I would read even much more. And so I think I was your sister in high school. And then life happened.
What changed?
Life happened.
So let me ask you, Denis, what is the title of the last book you read and how long ago? And why did you choose that title?
All right. So when we talk about reading, for me, what I discovered the other day is that I am more of a listener than a reader. And I've actually embraced that. So I am less of a physical book person. I subscribe to Audible, the app by Amazon. And, I have to choose a book every month to be able to listen to. That's why when we're talking about Tech Charge by
Nyimpini,
I went and I didn't find it, and I sort of like moved on from there. So I listen to a lot of audiobooks. I think last year I must have read maybe 3 physical books, and I listened to like 20 audiobooks. My last book, I was trying to think about the answer there. Poor Economics by Banerjee, somebody Banerjee. I'll get to his name. Yeah.
Okay, that's great. And why did you choose that genre or that title, Denis? Is there a specific reason?
Yes, I met a friend of mine who was into policy work, and I wanted to be able to learn about, because what I'm doing right now, I want to be able to move on to consultancy. And as I did share what I was doing in my previous place of work, and I've spent around 7 years in social development in a non-profit, he did relate a lot of it with the book Poor Economics, and recommended that I actually go out and read it. So I did it because I wanted to be able to understand the policy side of things. Banerjee is actually a Nobel laureate, takes a research and economics angle to thinking about poverty. Some of the things that really stood out for me is that, some of his examples are examples from Kenya, and he talks about, how does that mama mboga, that is that trade, what do you call
That
it?
seller.
That seller, that's the trader, the vegetable seller. How does she think about economics and finance? And then I would kind of relate that to how does Denis think about economics and finance? And then how does the person in India think about that? And I actually found that book to be actually very, very inspiring. Our takeaway there was that, and that's what I've done in the last 7 years, that poor people also have agency. They know, they understand how to make financial decisions. Only that sometimes I talk a lot about that book. Yeah. That was
Must be a really good book.
that was the last book that I read.
Yeah, okay. How long ago? You did say it though.
About 3 weeks ago.
Okay. So that's within good range. So I'm currently reading 2 books. One is The First 90 Days by Michael Watkins. Yeah, he's a Harvard Business Review scholar.
Yeah, writer.
Yeah, writer. Because I recently got promoted and I wanted to make sure that I'm meeting expectations in the first 90 days. And then I'm also reading Psychology of Money because I want to manage my finances better for the 3rd time. It's not for the first time. I know that's an old book, Denis.
So I read it after our last show.
Oh, you did?
No, correction. I listened to it after our last show.
Okay.
So yes,
it's a good book.
It's a good. Yeah, I think it's consistent with my 2 listens per every 5 weeks.
Yes.
Yeah. So that was the second last one that I.
Yeah, and of course the difference between me and you, Denis, is you listen to audiobooks. I love flapping pages, so I love the physical books.
You don't like trees, eh?
I love trees, but I love my books. I love flapping pages. So I think before even we go to the types of books, Denis, and also for our audience to understand what different genres are there, there's this quote from a gentleman called J.K. Rowling.
J.K. Rowling.
Yes.
It's actually a lady.
Oh, it's a lady?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Harry Potter.
Harry Potter series.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So she says that if you don't like to read, you haven't found the right book. So how do we find the right book, Denis? Maybe you can just quickly brainstorm to our audiences the types of books and the different genres, and how do they find the right book? Yes.
Obviously, in my last 2 listens, they are very consistent with my passion and that I actually genuinely want to be able to understand. So Abhijit Banerjee's book, Poor Economics, is a book about economics. It's a book that actually led to, because I was in my last employer doing this work. I did in my current employer, really focused on poverty deviation. So for somebody who has interest and passion in that, and that's where my passion sort of like intersected. So you have this, in terms of genre, it's a non-fiction kind of intersection academic type book. Psychology of Money, Morgan Housel, that's a finance book. It's a non-fiction book.
Yes.
So you can have it as fiction, but it's non-fiction. I loved fiction as a young kid. Back in our days, we had Nancy Drew, we had Hardy Boys, we had Famous Five, we had, yes, let's take it closer home. There was Moses, and the burning bush.
Moses and the burning bush.
Moses,
Yes.
the Uganda series, So I think those are the ones that
Yes.
growing up, I really dabbed so much into those fictional books, and they made my world at that age.
So just to recap the types of books that you've talked about, Denis, it can either be fiction or non-fiction. And then it could be biography around business and economics, like what you're currently reading, history, memoir, travel, sports. So I think for our listeners, identify a genre that works for you.
You have to be passionate.
You have to be passionate about. So for me, I'm into self-help books.
Oh, you love self-help books.
I love self-help books.
I used to be the person who did not like self-help books. But I also, one day, and I got into this very slowly. One day I picked one up and I started practicing it. So I do read a lot of self-awareness books. Of course, Goldman is one that everybody needs to be able to pick up and read.
Yeah.
So yeah, my perception of self-help books have changed. So let me put you on the spot, Vicky.
Yes.
Your latest self-help book, which is that?
Everyday Hero Manifesto by Robin Sharma.
Okay.
Yes. How do you become a hero in whatever you do?
Okay.
Yes. So that's the latest.
Nice. Robin Sharma, I think 5 a.m. club?
Yes.
Yeah. That one I relate to because I'm always up at 5 at the latest every morning. And I found that is the only Robin Sharma book that I've actually been able to relate to.
Yes.
But it's a very practical one for me because I practice it.
Yeah. So maybe, Denis, before we move into how to measure reading habits, how do you know whether you are a bookworm or you're a starter? Being in an African setup, and I know both of us are from have families and we have children, how do we cultivate this reading culture on our kids? Because for me, I would say when I was growing up, I didn't have the luxury to have a lot of books at home. So I would only read when I go to school.
Yeah.
So now that me and you are enlightened and we know that reading culture is very important, how do we cultivate that reading culture on our children?
I think that's why amen for our significant others. So in my house, and maybe it's sort of like reflecting back, similar experience to you, Vicky. Growing up, my school did not have a library in primary school, but I had friends who went to group of schools, and I had like 3 friends, so I would borrow a book from every one of them because for them it was mandatory to have a book in your backpack. So I would go and pick one, and then pick another one, and then pick another one, and that's how I actually read a lot at a very young age. I'm thinking about my kids, and I'm thinking about this age of very, very fast dopamine, and I don't know how you get that rush from reading a book. When you have your mobile phone, you have Facebook, it's also a book, So I'd say that with my kids, we do have an incentive structure that compensates them for completing a book and coming to talk about it.
Wow. Okay.
My wife and I, we buy a lot of books. So I don't read a book a month. I buy a book a month.
It's a step towards reading it.
I buy a book a month.
Yes.
And one of the joys that I have is, having to see those old books being picked out of our shelves. And so my wife always has a book next to her. Wow. So I am really hoping that she's showing examples for both of us.
And congratulations. I like the incentive bit of rewarding them when they finish a book. So for me, Denis, since I'm passionate, by extension, the same has to happen to my daughter as well. No choice.
Yes.
So I always carry a book wherever we go somewhere. So if we're going for a play date, I'll carry my book. She will carry hers. Nice. Even though she won't read it, but when she sees me holding mine, she'll by default get hers. Yeah. We always, at the beginning of the year, we make a list of books that we want to read. Yes. Wow. So I tell her I want to better my skills in A, B, C, and D. And then she tells me I want to be a teacher. She tells me she wants to be a teacher. So I tell her, if you want to be a good teacher, then you need to be good in math, English. So we look for books around those subjects. And then we try to reduce our usage for TV. So I don't do this 100%, but at least once in a week when I'm home, maybe over the weekends, we get 30 minutes to do, I read a story to her, or she tells me what was her key takeout from a certain book that she's been reading. So I task her to summarize key lessons from the books that she reads.
Wow.
Yes. And then we have a book library, of course, at home. Everyone has her own 2 or 3 shelves. And we always, when we are arranging, we put aside the ones we've read, the ones we've not read. So we always have, I think having a library and having a book close by you is the first step of cultivating the reading culture.
And let's just put it up there. I think I'm in awe, Vicky. I'm in awe, and I think I'm already starting to learn some very practical things. I have, as I say, I buy a book a month, and I've bought books since COVID started. And so I have so many books that I've actually not read. I think one of the things that I might need to think about is having those books out in the open.
Yes, get a bookshelf.
So they're in my office, in this board,
Those
somewhere.
Yes.
I don't know why I hid them. So maybe the takeaway for me is to get a shelf and put it out there, and put it very visibly out there, so that it becomes something that we've got to do. I think that's availability. What do you call it? That availability.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Out of sight, out of mind. That's heuristic, no? That availability heuristic can really help.
Yeah. And at the backdrop of that conversation, Denis, so maybe you can also discuss and maybe shed more light to our audience. How do we set goals that will help us to cultivate this reading culture? So the first thing, as you've said, is have a visible book library. Yeah. And I think for me, the other thing I would recommend is join a book club.
Join a book club. Now that's accountability. That's hacking yourself. Yes.
Join a book club. Have accountability partners who will hold you accountable. So I think I've mentioned in my past episodes that I'm a member of a Ladies Book Breakfast Forum. For those who are on LinkedIn, please go search for Ladies Book Breakfast Forum. There's also the Men Book Breakfast Forum. Yeah. So please join a book club and have accountability partners. I think the other thing is you can always carry a book. Yeah. Yes. So that whenever you're bored, just get a book and read. At least, I think the last time we had over 23-hour flight together, and I had forgotten my book in one of my check-in luggage, and I had to borrow yours. Yes. So yeah. So
I actually got a bag specifically that was meant to carry books. So you are lucky. You are lucky that day.
Oh, is it? So otherwise I would not have gotten a book.
Otherwise you'd have slept that entire flight. Okay. But that makes a lot of sense. If you have a book club that doesn't start at 8 in the morning on a Saturday, please let me know.
No, so let me tell you, Denis, they're flexible.
Yeah, I see some LinkedIn posts at 8 in the morning about it's like those people who run.
It's actually 7 to 8, so by 8 we are done. But there are those that are flexible evenings over the weekdays. So they are flexible.
Yeah, look for me at 2 in the afternoon. Yeah. 2 in the afternoon on a Saturday, I'm game. 7. They're doing at 7. Anyway.
You have to be intentional, remember? Yeah. And I think the other way you can set goals towards cultivating a reading culture is have a reading schedule. I don't read every day. I know there are people who read like 2 pages a day and sleep. Frank Moller, let me put him on the spotlight. Frank is an avid reader. I know he reads a lot. Myself, I will not read daily, but I'll read maybe 3 times in a week. So I'll set aside an hour before I go to bed and read like 2 or 3 chapters, 4 chapters, depending on how much glucose and energy I have. Yeah, so set aside a reading schedule. And then there's no time like present to get started. So if you've not started reading books, look for that book that you think will interest you, be it travel, sports, cooking, anything. Look for that book and get started. Yeah. And consistency and motivation is key. So you have to constantly motivate yourself. And remember, for you to create a habit successfully, it takes 66 days.
What happened to 21 days?
Oh, there's also 21 days. I think consistently for 66 days is you fully form a habit.
Okay.
Tell me about 21 days.
I thought it was a 21 day. I think I've been working with 21 days for a couple of years now.
Okay. And it works for you?
I think so, yeah.
It does. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So if you do it consistently for 66 days, you form a habit 100%.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And I think one interesting thing you've said is that people who actually do 2 pages a day, right? Mm-hmm. So 2 pages is nothing really. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can do 2 pages. Mm-hmm. It is the for people like us who wake up at 5 in the morning. Tell me, squeeze another 1 hour to read a book. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, I should be sleeping right now. So I think that is the challenge. Yeah. So to speak.
Yeah. So as we wrap up, Denis, I think
just before we do that, Vicky, I want to be able to recuse myself or rescue myself. Hey, do audiobooks count?
They do, as long as it's a book. They do.
All right.
The thing is, try as much also to get a physical copy. Remember, we said out of sight, out of mind, and we are trying to build the reading culture on our kids. So we also.
So audiobooks. So Denis reads because.
Denis, you're reading.
Okay, perfect. Number 2. Okay, let me see if I can push my luck. Do textbooks count?
Yes, as long as you're learning something, Denis.
Okay, yes. So I have a paper that I need to sit on, sit for in 6 months' time.
Yes.
Requires you to read like nothing in the world. I spend my first 1.5 2 hours of my morning going through that. So I guess I'm a reader.
You are a reader. Okay, all right. So that's why I said identify a type of books that you want to read.
Yeah, that one I have to read because if I don't read, I'll fail.
Yes.
Yes, true.
So I think as we wrap up, Denis, maybe to our audience, you don't have to spend an arm and a leg to buy a book. There are affordable books out there. I know there are books at the streets. There's some affordable bookstores that you could buy books, and also be in a habit of exchanging books so that you don't have to buy 100 of books. Have an accountability partner and then exchange books. I think I can also task maybe the book clubs that are available to have a book exchange program so that people are motivated and they interact with one another, and you don't have to buy as many books if you don't need to.
Yeah.
Great. So please join a book club if you can. Identify a genre that works for you. And in this episode, we don't have any specific books to recommend. We just want you to go out there and look for a book that will work for you.
Amen. And I think to just put out my commitment out there, next year I'm reading 3 physical books.
And hopefully when I come to your house, I'll find a visible bookshelf.
Then you're going to, not next month, next year. Next year, you're going to see a physical bookshelf.
Okay.
Somewhere in the open.
Great. We hope this episode has been helpful to you in continuing your learning and growth journey. If you have any questions, reach out to us directly, preferably on LinkedIn under Victorine Ngetich or Denis Nyanja, or Saved by Nobel on our socials, that is the Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Also share this episode with someone who you think would benefit from it, and remember to give us a 5-star rating and review wherever you got this podcast. That's how you help us to get the word out there. Hope you've been saved by Nobel. We'll see you on the next one.